So, tell me why Hollywood woke up this morning acting like the entire entertainment industry just stepped on a live landmine? Because apparently, according to Jaguar Wright, yes, that Jaguar, the walking nuclear reactor of celebrity truth bombs, Russell Dickerson isn't just the soft-spoken indie darling with cheekbones that could slice through marble. No. Jaguar says he's allegedly the center of a health scandal so explosive it could wipe out half of Hollywood's A-list dating pool. And guess who gets dragged into the blast radius? Keith Urban, the internet's favorite soft-spoken, deep-voiced shoddy of mystery, suddenly being accused of catching something he didn't even know he was signing up for. Are we tracking this, people? Jaguar is screaming from the rooftops that Russell Dickerson has been walking around with HIV, and that Keith Urban is now officially infected. Now the timeline is melting, Twitter detectives are hyperventilating, and TikTok conspiracy theorists are stitching videos like they're in the final round of a forensic science competition nobody asked for. Welcome to the scandal Hollywood PR teams prayed you'd never hear. Turn your volume up, lock your doors, and grab the big mug for this tea because, baby, the mask just slipped, the receipt spilled, and the whole machine is shaking. So, let's trace this back to the absolute ground zero of this digital explosion, because to understand how we got to a place where Keith Urban's name is trending next to a life-altering medical diagnosis, we have to look at the man who allegedly started the fire. Russell Dickerson. For years, the industry has pushed this man as the ultimate golden boy. He was the soft-spoken, guitar-strumming, perfectly coiffed package of pure innocence that Hollywood love stories are built on. Studio executives poured millions into crafting an image that practically screamed safety. He was the guy you brought home to meet your parents, the safe bet for a high-profile red carpet romance, and the marketable face that brands lined up to throw seven-figure endorsements at. But according to Jaguar Wright, that entire clean-cut aesthetic was nothing but a masterfully engineered facade, designed to hide a lifestyle of reckless disregard and terrifying secrets. Jaguar didn't just hint at minor misconduct. She blew the doors completely off the studio lot by claiming that Russell has been hiding an HIV diagnosis while actively engaging with the industry's elite dating pool. The sheer scale of this accusation is what has sent Hollywood into a literal tailspin, because in a town where everybody is connected by a maximum of 2 degrees of separation, a secret like that doesn't just affect one person. It acts as an invisible tripwire stretching across VIP lounges, private estate parties, and exclusive multi-picture film sets. The immediate reaction from the industry wasn't a coordinated denial, which is exactly what tipped off the internet detectives that something was deeply wrong. Usually, when a rogue commentator drops a bomb this heavy, the celebrity's legal team has a cease and desist letter posted on Twitter within 20 minutes. But this morning, complete, paralyzing silence from Russell's camp. And you know how the internet operates. Silence in the middle of a storm is treated as an absolute admission of guilt. Within 3 hours of Jaguar's live stream, the narrative transformed from a wild rumor into an active digital manhunt for the truth. TikTok creators immediately began digging up old interview footage from last year's major film festivals, specifically looking for moments where Russell's pristine exterior cracked. Suddenly, a clip of him looking slightly fatigued during a press junket wasn't just a sign of a busy travel schedule anymore. It was rebranded as definitive visual proof of a hidden medical crisis. Conspiracy theorists began running slow-motion analysis on his facial expressions, pointing out how he adjusted his collar or stumbled over a question about his personal life, as evidence that he was actively suffocating under the weight of a monumental secret. The comments sections on these videos became a breeding ground for wild speculation, with thousands of users claiming that the industry had been running a massive cover-up operation to protect their financial investment in his rising career. But the real panic set in when Jaguar shifted her sights from Russell and aimed her verbal artillery directly at Keith Urban. This was the moment the timeline went from casual gossip mongering to absolute, unadulterated hysteria. Keith Urban has always occupied a very specific, untouchable space in the cultural landscape. He is viewed as the deep-voiced, brooding poetic soul who stays entirely out of the Hollywood muck. He doesn't do messy public breakups, he doesn't get caught by paparazzi leaving sketchy nightclubs, and his public persona is entirely built around a slow, calculated devotion to his art and his high-profile marriage. So when Jaguar casually dropped the claim that Keith had been infected due to proximity to this secret web, the collective internet lost its mind. Jaguar's narrative painted Keith not as a willing participant in some scandalous underground drama, but as a tragic victim who was completely blindsided. She claimed he was emotionally manipulated and targeted by circles that valued industry secrets over human lives, stepping into a situation he didn't even know existed until the damage was already done. Almost instantly, the fan response mutated into an overwhelming wave of frantic concern and amateur forensic science. Internet sleuths didn't just look at recent clips. They went back months, tracing Keith's entire public timeline to find the exact moment the alleged betrayal took place. A video from a charity gala 3 months ago, where Keith stood near the back of the room looking uncharacteristically detached, was suddenly viewed 2 million times under captions claiming it was the day he found out. People began taking screenshots of his eyes in paparazzi photos, zooming in to analyze whether his pupils were dilated or if he looked like a man who had been crying in the back of a tinted SUV. Anonymous accounts on Reddit popped up claiming to be junior publicists who worked on his latest production, swearing up and down that Keith had been increasingly distant on set, canceling minor press appearances at the last minute, and spending hours locked in his trailer speaking frantically to his legal team. To the public, these unverified stories became gospel truth because they fit perfectly into the dramatic, heartbreaking narrative of a gentle soul being systematically crushed by a ruthless industry machine. While the fans were busy crying in the comment sections, the corporate side of Hollywood was experiencing a genuine financial emergency. This scandal didn't just threaten reputations. It directly threatened the bottom line of major studios and streaming platforms. See, when an actor is attached to a $100 million franchise, their health and public image are heavily insured by corporate underwriters. The moment an allegation involving a highly contagious, life-altering condition hits the mainstream, those insurance policies enter a legal gray zone. If an actor is deemed a medical risk or a liability to the safety of a film set, entire productions can be shut down by studio lawyers overnight. Behind closed doors, emergency Zoom calls were being held at major agencies, with high-profile publicists frantically trying to construct a strategy that could contain a health scandal of this magnitude. But how do you write a press release denying a terminal rumor without making it look like you're panicking? How do you tell the public everything is fine when the stock prices of the media conglomerates backing these celebrities are actively dipping because Wall Street analysts are monitoring the Twitter trending topics? The tension reached a boiling point when a prominent Hollywood insider blog posted a cryptic blind item, hinting that several major film productions were quietly pausing their shooting schedules for routine health screenings. The blog didn't name Russell or Keith directly, but the phrasing was so specific that even a casual observer could connect the dots. The internet interpreted this as a sign that the scandal had broken through the barrier of online gossip and was now affecting the actual mechanics of Hollywood business. Publicists were reportedly telling their top-tier clients to scrub their social media feeds of any photos connecting them to Russell Dickerson over the past 2 years, leading to a massive wave of sudden unfollows and deleted Instagram posts across the entire A-list community. It was a literal digital purge, with celebrities desperately trying to erase any trace of proximity to the blast radius before the mainstream media picked up the story. Just as the industry was attempting to build a wall of silence around the Russell and Keith situation, Jaguar Wright decided to ensure that no one in Hollywood would sleep soundly for the next 6 months. She hopped back on her platform, adjusted her microphone with the calm demeanor of a general preparing to wipe an enemy off the map, and casually threw Tom Cruise's name into the middle of the burning building. The mention of Tom Cruise took this scandal from a localized entertainment mess and turned it into an international, multi-generational conspiracy theory. Tom Cruise is not just an actor. He is the undisputed cornerstone of modern cinematic commerce, a man whose entire existence is wrapped in extreme secrecy, intense studio protection, and decades of whispered rumors. By tying his name to a narrative that already involved Keith Urban, Jaguar effectively connected the past, present, and future of Hollywood's secret-keeping, setting the stage for a much deeper, much darker exploration into how these powerful circles operate when their multi-million-dollar investments are threatened, which is exactly where the narrative takes an even crazier turn. The introduction of Tom Cruise into this equation didn't just add fuel to the fire. It completely altered the gravity of the entire situation, blowing a massive hole through the protective barrier that Hollywood's elite had spent decades constructing. When a name that massive gets thrown into a mix that already features an alleged HIV diagnosis, the collective internet doesn't just gossip, it begins an aggressive global excavation of past history. TikTok detectives immediately stopped looking at recent red carpet footage and went straight into the archives, digging up old grainy clips from the late 90s and early 2000s. Suddenly, the infamous and highly publicized divorce between Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman was being dragged back into the light, parsed through a completely different, highly cynical lens. Conspiracy theorists began splicing footage of Nicole Kidman famously walking out of her lawyer's office after the divorce papers were finalized, juxtaposing her look of sheer relief with current clips of Keith Urban, looking emotionally depleted in public. The narrative being built across millions of smartphones was as elaborate as a psychological thriller script. People were claiming that the hidden strings of control, the strict studio contracts, and the heavy use of non-disclosure agreements to mask serious medical and personal liabilities weren't a new phenomenon created for Russell Dickerson, but an ongoing multi-generational system that Tom Cruise had supposedly navigated for years. This specific connection caused a massive shift in how the public consumed the scandal, because it effectively bridged the gap between old Hollywood secrets and modern-day chaos. Online forums exploded with complex timelines attempting to link Russell's sudden, meteoric rise in the industry to the same executive circles that have historically protected Cruise's pristine, untouchable movie star image. Anonymous users on alternative message boards began posting fabricated flight logs and blurry, unverified photos from private Hollywood estate parties, claiming they were proof that Russell, Keith, and Tom had shared the same exclusive social circles for months. Every single detail was treated as heavy evidence. If an actor paused for 2 seconds before answering a question during a press junket 5 years ago, it was analyzed in 4K slow motion to prove they were hiding a deep, industry-wide secret. The absurdity of the internet's obsession reached a peak when people started comparing the blinking patterns of Russell Dickerson in a casual podcast appearance to the nervous laughter of Keith Urban during a Country Music Awards interview, claiming that the synchronicity of their micro-expressions proved they were both operating under the exact same high-stress corporate blackmail. While the public was busy losing its mind over these digital connections, the actual infrastructure of Hollywood was facing a full-scale institutional meltdown. Behind the scenes, the panic had shifted from simple public relations damage control to serious legal and financial warfare. Major talent agencies were reportedly working 24 hours a day, establishing dedicated crisis rooms specifically to handle the fallout from Jaguar's live streams. The problem wasn't just the public's reaction. It was the immediate response from corporate sponsors and international film distributors. When an allegation as severe as a hidden, highly contagious health crisis gets attached to actors who are currently fronting massive global campaigns, the financial stakes are astronomical. Rumors began circulating through industry backchannels that a major luxury fashion house was preparing to quietly terminate a multi-million-dollar endorsement deal with one of the parties involved, citing a standard morality clause hidden deep within the contract. This sent shockwaves through the talent management community, because if one brand pulled out based on unverified internet allegations, it would create a domino effect that could bankrupt several top-tier production companies overnight. Then, just as the corporate lawyers were preparing their first round of heavily worded legal statements, the narrative took an even stranger, more chaotic turn. Jaguar Wright went live once again, and with the casual confidence of someone reading off a grocery list, she dropped the name of Lenny Kravitz. If the inclusion of Tom Cruise brought the weight of Hollywood history, Lenny Kravitz brought the ultimate sense of global cultural proximity. Lenny is the definition of rock royalty, a man who moves through the upper echelons of music, film, and high fashion with absolute effortless grace. He is a fixture at every major global event, from the Met Gala to exclusive European film festivals, meaning his proximity circle is essentially a map of the world's most powerful people. The moment his name left Jaguar's mouth, the conspiracy theories didn't just expand. They fractured into a dozen different terrifying directions. Twitter Spaces cropped up instantly with tens of thousands of listeners, titled with frantic questions about global cover-ups and secret medical blacklists. The internet immediately began tracking the physical movements of all four men over the past 3 fiscal years. People were pulling red carpet photography from international premieres, zooming in on the background of crowded VIP areas to find moments where Lenny Kravitz and Russell Dickerson were standing within breathing distance of each other. A completely harmless handshake exchanged between them at a charity event 2 years prior was treated like a smoking gun in a forensic investigation. Tabloids, sensing the absolute goldmine of traffic, began publishing sensationalized headlines about Lenny's internal management team going into absolute code red emergency status. The rumor mill claimed that his lawyers were drafting massive lawsuits to preemptively scrub his name from any digital algorithms associating him with the word infection. The public didn't care about the lack of logic or the complete absence of medical proof. They only cared about the sheer magnitude of the spectacle. The scandal had evolved from a messy piece of celebrity gossip into an all-consuming digital monster that was actively feeding on its own momentum, growing larger with every single click, share, and stitched video. Amidst this raging digital wildfire, an anonymous insider page on a popular whistleblowing platform leaked what they claimed to be a series of heavily redacted private text messages between senior entertainment executives. The messages, which were completely unverified and highly likely to be fabricated, discussed the absolute necessity of keeping a specific medical situation under wraps to protect a highly anticipated winter blockbuster release. The text read, "If the public catches wind of the medical files before the international press tour concludes, the entire slate is completely dead in the water." The internet did not hesitate for a fraction of a second. They instantly attributed the blacked-out names in the screenshots to Russell Dickerson and Keith Urban, claiming this was definitive corporate proof that Hollywood treats human lives like disposable chess pieces on a multi-billion-dollar board. This leak completely shifted the public sentiment regarding Keith Urban. The narrative transitioned almost overnight from shocking disbelief to profound, widespread sympathy, painting him as the ultimate tragic figure in a ruthless corporate game. Fans began theorizing that his recent complete withdrawal from social media wasn't just his usual introverted behavior, but the quiet, agonizing process of a man dealing with a massive personal betrayal and a terrifying health reality. A fan-run page uploaded an old interview where Keith was asked about the hardest part of navigating fame, and his brief, emotional pause before answering was reframed as the exact moment he realized he had been sacrificed for the sake of an industry studio's bottom line. The video gained millions of views in a matter of hours, creating a massive wave of public outrage directed at the studio executives who were allegedly forcing him into silence. But as the internet continued to spin these wild, unsubstantiated theories, the tension inside the studio boardrooms was reaching a point of literal explosion. The absolute silence from all official camps was starting to feel less like a strategic choice and more like a terrifying realization that the situation had grown far too large for any standard public relations playbook to fix. Executives were realizing that the old tricks of leaking a fake relationship or creating a sudden public distraction weren't going to work this time, because the public wasn't looking at who was dating whom anymore. They were looking directly at the corporate blueprint of the industry itself. And right when the panic had reached its absolute peak, right when the lawyers were about to throw in the towel, the first real crack in the wall of silence appeared, originating from the one person nobody expected to move first, setting off a brand new wave of strategic warfare that would change the entire direction of the scandal. That incredible crack in the wall of silence didn't come from a highly paid crisis management firm, or a carefully worded press release drafted by corporate attorneys in the middle of the night. No, it came directly from the personal camp of Nicole Kidman, and it completely shifted the battlefield from defensive panic to absolute, cold-blooded strategic warfare. Nicole didn't hire an intermediary to speak for her, nor did she allow a publicist to post a sterile statement on a studio letterhead. Instead, she let her absolute, chilling silence speak volumes until dropping that single definitive warning line through her closest inner circle. "Stop playing with me. I'm not the one." The second that message hit the major entertainment blogs, the entire internet froze in its tracks. The tone of the conversation changed instantly from chaotic speculation to intense anticipation, because anyone who has followed the mechanics of high-level entertainment power plays knows that Nicole is not someone who reacts out of fear. She is a woman who holds the keys to decades of industry secrets, a legendary figure who knows exactly where every single body is buried on the studio lots, and someone who has successfully navigated the most ruthless corners of celebrity culture without ever letting her pristine armor get dented. By stepping directly into the crossfire to protect Keith Urban, she effectively signaled to the entire executive infrastructure of Hollywood that she was fully prepared to dismantle the machine piece by piece if they attempted to use her family as a shield for Russell Dickerson's alleged liabilities. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't just about a terrifying health scandal or a rogue commentator dropping truth bombs on a live stream. It was an active, high-stakes war between the old guard elite who know how to wield real institutional power and the corporate puppeteers who thought they could manage this crisis behind closed doors. TikTok detectives immediately abandoned their amateur medical analysis and began dissecting the hidden meaning behind Nicole's ultimatum. The consensus across the digital space was unanimous. Someone behind the scenes had seriously underestimated her, and whatever she was preparing to release next was going to look less like a PR cleanup and more like a scorched earth campaign. As the public reeled from this dramatic shift, the actual mechanics of the scandal took a terrifyingly concrete turn when an anonymous whistleblower account on an encrypted data-sharing platform leaked a massive batch of internal files that the internet quickly dubbed the Hollywood blueprint. These weren't blurry photographs or unverified text messages. These were highly detailed, multi-page corporate talent contracts, heavily redacted non-disclosure agreements, and private insurance underwriting spreadsheets that explicitly detailed how major media conglomerates protect their high-value assets from public exposure. The leaked documents showed an incredibly calculated, deeply cynical system where celebrities are treated less like human beings and more like financial chess pieces. The contracts revealed specific clauses that outlined how unexpected medical emergencies or personal health liabilities are systematically managed through manufactured public distractions, fabricated relationship narratives, and massive cash settlements designed to buy absolute, lifelong silence. The public's reaction to these leaked contracts was a mixture of absolute horror and intense validation. The internet didn't just read the files. They began matching the dates on the redacted documents to major, unexplained shifts in celebrity behavior over the past few years. A sudden random breakup between two A-list stars that made no sense 3 years ago was suddenly reanalyzed as a manufactured PR distraction designed to draw attention away from a high-level corporate probe. The realization that the entertainment industry routinely buys silence and fabricates entire love stories just to protect their bottom line completely destroyed any remaining public trust. The conversation was no longer focused solely on whether Russell Dickerson had actively compromised the health of his social circle. It was focused on the terrifying realization that the entire Hollywood structure is actively engineered to profit from destruction, provided that destruction can be packaged as viral entertainment for the masses. While the internet was busy unpacking the structural corruption of the industry, Russell Dickerson's continued, absolute silence was beginning to take on a terrifying weight of its own. In the court of public opinion, staying quiet during a standard cheating rumor can be seen as a dignified choice, but staying completely silent when the entire world is accusing you of concealing a life-altering medical diagnosis is treated as a definitive confession. Yet, those who understand the deeper layers of Hollywood strategy began to realize that Russell wasn't hiding out of fear. He was calculating his survival. Reports began to surface from high-level industry insiders claiming that Russell's legal team was quietly gathering their own massive cache of receipts, preparing for the exact moment the corporate studio executives inevitably tried to drop him from his multi-million-dollar film contracts. He knew that the loudest person in a public scandal rarely wins, and that his only chance of survival was to wait in the shadows until the corporate entities slipped up and revealed their own complicity. The tension reached its absolute peak when a grainy, highly distorted audio file surfaced on a popular conspiracy forum, claiming to be a leaked voicemail from a senior studio executive to Russell's management team. The voice, though heavily altered, could be heard saying, "The leak was not an accident. It was a warning. Keep him contained or we pull the entire international distribution deal." Even though digital audio experts quickly pointed out signs of tampering and potential fabrication, the damage was already done. The phrase "it was a warning" became the defining slogan of the entire scandal, trending globally across multiple platforms within an hour. The internet fell into a state of absolute frenzy, realizing that the leaked video and the initial health rumors were just the opening salvos in a much bigger, much more dangerous game of corporate blackmail and industry control. Someone high up in the executive food chain wanted Keith Urban quiet, they wanted Russell Dickerson completely humiliated, and they wanted the public entirely distracted from a much larger, much darker scandal that was actively brewing behind the studio gates. This realization sent a wave of genuine panic through the upper echelons of the entertainment world, causing high-profile celebrities who had previously remained silent to suddenly take drastic action to distance themselves from the blast radius. A-list actors, top-tier musicians, and powerful fashion influencers began quietly unfollowing, unliking, and deleting any digital trace of connection to the main players involved. It was a mass exodus of proximity, a silent acknowledgement that something incredibly dangerous was about to explode, and nobody wanted to be standing anywhere near the building when it finally collapsed. Private email servers at major talent agencies reportedly went into lockdown mode, with managers explicitly instructing their clients to decline all interview requests, avoid public appearances, and completely stay off social media until the legal teams could determine just how many contracts were about to be incinerated by the impending fallout. But as the corporate empire scrambled for cover and the public braced itself for the next inevitable wave of leaks, one undeniable truth remained standing amidst the digital smoke. The mask of Hollywood had slipped so far that it could never be put back on. The public had seen the literal blueprint of how the machine operates when its financial survival is threatened, and they were no longer willing to accept the PR-approved smiles, the carefully curated statements, or the manufactured narratives that studios spend millions trying to sell. The stage was now completely set for an unprecedented, multi-sided institutional war, with Nicole Kidman holding the line for her family's survival, Keith Urban processing an unbelievable layer of corporate betrayal, Russell Dickerson waiting in the shadows for the perfect moment to strike back at the executives who abandoned him, and Jaguar Wright sitting back with an absolute mountain of new receipts, ready to detonate the next phase of the scandal that would change the entertainment landscape forever. And there you have it, the raw, unvarnished blueprint of an industry that treats human lives like disposable assets and trades corporate secrets in the dark. The mask hasn't just slipped, it has been completely shattered, and the foundation of Hollywood is actively buckling under the weight of these leaks. But baby, you already know this is just the calm before the absolute storm. If Nicole is drawing a line in the sand, if Keith is prepping for total warfare against his own circle, and if Jaguar is holding a nuclear briefcase of brand new receipts, then the next chapter is going to cut deeper than anything we've seen yet. Now I have to ask you, the real jury of the internet. Who do you think dropped that warning leak? Is the industry going to successfully bury Russell to save their billions? Or is Nicole about to blow the entire corporate machine sky high? Drop your theories in the comments below because the timeline is burning and I need to know where you stand. Smash that like button if you want the next wave of verified contracts the second they drop. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a single second of part 4. And turn those notifications all the way on because this tea is boiling at a lethal temperature. Remember, in this game, nothing is real except the fallout. This is your masked narrator signing out from Lumi Legacy. Stay woke, stay messy, and stay tuned.